My dad doesn't know this, but I once heard him tell another man he wished his child were his son instead of me. So I gave him exactly what he asked for. Now I treat him like a stranger. I was 14 when I heard the words that changed everything between us. We were at my brother Noah's baseball tournament. Noah was 16, the star pitcher, the golden child who could do no wrong. I played soccer, but my dad never came to my games. There was always an excuse. Work ran late, the car had issues, a headache, something. But for Noah, he never missed a single match, not once. That day, I left my phone in Dad's truck. During the 7th inning, I went back to get it. That's when I heard him talking to another father in the parking lot. The man was complaining about his own son, saying the kid lacked drive and ambition. My dad laughed and replied with something that felt like a direct hit. "You should trade him for mine." Not Noah, obviously, the other one. "Ethan's so forgettable you probably wouldn't even notice the difference." They both laughed. Then Dad added, "Sometimes I watch Noah out there and think, what if I had two like him instead of one useless one? That would have been the dream." I stood behind the truck, frozen, my phone in my hand. My own father called me useless and replaceable, as if I wouldn't be missed. I waited until they left. Then I got into the truck and sat in silence. After the game, Noah sat in the passenger seat, like always, talking about his strikeouts. Dad asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. That was the last genuine conversation we ever had. From that day on, I gave him exactly what he wanted, a son he wouldn't notice. I stopped asking him to attend my games. I stopped sharing anything about school, friends, or the parts of my life that mattered. When he asked how my day was, I said fine. When he tried to talk, I gave short answers and left. At first, he didn't notice. He was too focused on Noah's achievements. A few months later, something changed. He started knocking on my door at night, asking if I wanted to shoot hoops. I said I had homework. He offered to grab burgers after practice. I said I wasn't hungry. He asked about soccer season. I said it was fine and walked away. Noah realized before Dad did. One evening, he pulled me aside and asked why I was acting distant. I told him I wasn't acting differently. I was simply giving Dad what he wanted, one less son to think about. He didn't understand, but he didn't push. By the time I turned 16, Dad was trying harder. He began showing up at my games unannounced, standing quietly on the sidelines and waving if I looked his way. But when I saw him there, I felt nothing. Not anger, not pride, just emptiness. After games, he'd approach and try small talk. I thanked him politely, the way you'd thank a neighbor for helping carry something. No warmth, no connection. He was trying to connect with someone who had already checked out. The breaking point came last month at Noah's graduation party. Dad stood to give a toast. He spoke about how proud he was of his family, of both his sons. He looked at me and said, "Ethan, I know I haven't always been there the way I should have, but I want you to know I'm proud of the man you're becoming." I looked at him calmly and said, "Thank you, sir." The room went silent. He froze. Mom stared at me. Noah's smile faded. I didn't react. After the party, Dad stopped me in the kitchen. He said we needed to talk, that something was wrong, that he missed his son. I looked him in the eye and said, "I don't know what you mean. I've always been here." He shook his head. "No, you haven't. You've been somewhere else for years, and I don't know why." I almost told him. I almost repeated his own words from the parking lot. But I realized something. He didn't deserve that closure. He got exactly what he wanted, a son so forgettable he could live in the same house and barely notice him. So I said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and walked out. Now he slips notes under my door. He sends texts asking if I want to spend time together. I always reply politely, "Maybe next time." There's never a next time. Noah says Dad's falling apart, says he doesn't understand what he did wrong. That's the point. He never will, because I won't tell him. Some words can't be unheard. Once spoken, they stay with you. He wished for another son. Now he has one, just not the one he expected. A stranger living in his house. Exactly what he asked for. 4 years have passed since that day in the parking lot. 4 years since I heard him say he wished he could trade me. 4 years of treating him like what he made me, someone invisible. Now, a week before I leave for college, the tension in our home feels unbearable. Mom noticed first. One morning at breakfast, Dad sat at the head of the table, Mom to his right, Noah across from me. The usual arrangement, the same heavy silence. "Ethan," Mom said, setting down her coffee, "your father and I were thinking of throwing you a going-away party before you leave." I kept looking at my plate. "That's not necessary." "Of course it is," Dad said, forcing enthusiasm. "It's not every day your son leaves for college. We want to make it special." I finally looked up. "Thanks for the thought, sir, but I'd prefer something small." His jaw tightened. He hated when I called him sir. It reminded him of what we had become. Nothing. "Come on, Ethan," Noah began. "I still need to pack," I said, standing up. "Excuse me." As I walked upstairs, I heard Mom say, "What's going on with him? He's been like this for years. It's not normal." I didn't hear Dad's reply. I didn't care. In my room, half-packed boxes lined the wall. 18 years reduced to 4 cardboard boxes. Clothes, books, a few keepsakes. No family photos. I took those down years ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Noah. "Need to talk. Now." 2 minutes later, he walked in. "Dad's falling apart," he said. "Mom thinks he's depressed. He cries almost every night." I shrugged. "I'm sorry for him." "No, you're not. That's the issue." "What do you want me to say?" "I want to know what happened. You've treated him like he did something unforgivable, and no one knows why." "I told you years ago, I'm giving him what he wanted." "That doesn't explain anything. Dad loves you." "Now he does," I said. "Where was that when I was 14? He went quiet. "What happened when you were 14? I didn't answer. I kept packing. "Mom's throwing the party anyway. Saturday. Everyone's coming. At least do it for her." I didn't respond. Saturday came quickly. By 5, the house was full. Relatives I hadn't seen in years. I wore the blue shirt Mom bought and looked at myself in the mirror. An 18-year-old with empty eyes and a practiced smile. Forgettable. Downstairs, people congratulated me. "Your dad must be so proud." I nodded and thanked them. Dad stood talking to my grandfather. When he saw me, his face lit up with hope. "Ethan, come here. Grandpa wants to congratulate you." I walked over. Grandpa smiled. "Your dad never stops talking about you." "That's kind of him," I replied evenly. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. I didn't react. "I'm really proud of you, son," he said. "Thank you." "Just thank you?" Grandpa joked. Dad forced a smile. Later, at 8, Dad raised his glass. "Tonight, we're celebrating my son, Ethan. He's smart, hard-working, kind. I haven't always been the best father, but I love both my sons equally. Noah and Ethan, you're my pride and joy." All eyes turned to me. I smiled politely. "Thank you all for coming, and thank you, sir, for organizing this." The silence was immediate. Mom went pale. Noah stared at me. Dad's expression fell apart in front of everyone. Whispers started. Noah leaned toward me. "What was that? You called him sir in front of everyone?" "It's a respectful title," I said calmly. "It's humiliating. It's he started this. I'm just finishing it." The party dragged on. Dad avoided me. Mom pretended everything was fine, but I caught her watching me, trying to understand. When the last guest left, she shut the door firmly. "Living room, now." I sat on the couch, Noah beside me. Dad stood by the window. "What was that?" Mom demanded. "What was what?" "You called your father sir in front of everyone." "It's a respectful title." "It's how you speak to a stranger," she said sharply. I stayed silent. Dad turned, eyes red. "Laura, leave it."
"No, David."
Mom said firmly. This ends tonight. I've watched this family fall apart for 4 years. I'm done pretending. Ethan, I'll ask you one last time. What happened between you and your father? Nothing, I said quietly. You're lying. I'm not. Then what does that mean? Nothing happened, and that's exactly the problem. Nothing happened. No effort, no attention, no support. Mom's voice shook. Dad stepped closer. That's not true. I love both my sons. Really? I said, standing up. Then tell me, Dad, how many of my soccer games did you attend when I was 14? I went to plenty, he replied. How many exactly? He paused. I don't remember. 0, I said. You went to 0. And how many of Noah's baseball games did you miss that year? He stayed silent. None, I answered for him. You didn't miss one. Ethan, I was working a lot back then. There was always time for Noah, always. Mom looked between us, confused and hurt. So this is about the games? It's not just that. Then what is it? It doesn't matter. I'm leaving in 5 days. After that, you won't have to worry about me. Sit down, Mom said firmly. Something in her tone made me listen. She turned to Dad. Think, David, is there anything you said or did when Ethan was 14 that might have hurt him? He rubbed his face. Laura, it's been 4 years. I can't remember every conversation. Think harder. He sighed. No big arguments, no punishments, nothing unusual. Noah spoke quietly. It was during my baseball regionals. Ethan once said something happened that day. Dad frowned. Regionals? We won that tournament. It was one of the best days of... He stopped. His expression changed. Recognition replaced confusion. What is it? Mom asked. Nothing, he said too quickly. David, I said it's nothing. Of course it's nothing. Just a joke between dads, right? Dad went pale. Ethan, good night. I walked upstairs and closed my door. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, steadying my breathing. Downstairs I could hear their voices, Mom demanding answers, Dad avoiding them, Noah trying to calm things down. About 20 minutes later, there were 3 soft knocks. Ethan, Mom said, open the door. I'm tired. Either you open it or I will. I sighed, stood up, and unlocked the door. She walked in and sat on my bed. Her eyes were red. Did your father remember something? She asked. I didn't respond. He said he might have had a conversation with another dad that day at the tournament. He wouldn't tell me what it was about. He seemed nervous, almost in tears. My chest tightened. Ethan, I need you to tell me what you heard that day. Why? Because I'm your mother, because I love you. And if your father said something that destroyed your relationship, I deserve to know. I looked at her for a long time. 4 years of silence felt heavy in my throat. You really want to know? Yes, she whispered. Even if it changes everything? The truth doesn't destroy things, she said quietly. It reveals them. I sat in the chair across from her. That day, I began. During the 7th inning, I went to Dad's truck to get my phone. I heard him talking to another man in the parking lot. She nodded, waiting. The guy was complaining about his son, said he was lazy and unmotivated. Dad laughed and said he should trade him for his own. Mom blinked. What? He said, you should trade him for mine. Not Noah, obviously, the other one. Ethan's so forgettable, you probably wouldn't even notice. The color drained from her face. He also said sometimes he watches Noah and wonders what it would be like to have 2 sons like him instead of one useless one. She didn't move. They both laughed, I said quietly. Silence filled the room. So since that day, I continued, I gave him what he wanted, a forgettable son.
Mom covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. 4 years? She whispered. You carried that alone for 4 years? I didn't have a choice. You could have told me. For what? It wouldn't have changed what he said. She stood abruptly. I'm talking to your father. Don't, I said firmly. Ethan, this can't just... It already did, 4 years ago. Now you decide what to do with the truth. She stared at me, breathing hard, then left the room. 10 minutes later, the shouting started downstairs. How could you say that about your own son? It was a stupid joke, Laura. 2 men talking. A joke. You called him useless, forgettable. You laughed. I don't remember saying it like that. Now you don't remember? Convenient. Keep your voice down. Ethan can hear. Good. Let him hear how you minimize what you did. A door slammed, then silence. I didn't sleep until after 3 in the morning. At 7, there was another knock. Ethan, it's Noah. I opened the door. He looked exhausted. Mom told me everything, he said. I stayed quiet. Why didn't you tell me? What would you have done? I don't know. Talked to him, confronted him. And then what? You think that would have changed anything? He sat on my bed, shaking his head. When you said you were giving Dad what he wanted, I thought you were exaggerating. I didn't realize. It's not your fault. You were 16. He swallowed. Dad didn't sleep here last night. Mom asked him to leave. He's at a hotel. Good. She said she needs time. And you? I asked. I think he made a serious mistake. I think he should have apologized years ago, but I also think he deserves the chance to do it now, even if it's late. Some apologies don't fix anything. Why not? Because some words stay with you. He can say sorry 1,000 times. It won't change what I heard. It won't change what he believed. You don't know what he believed, Snowa said softly. Yes, I do. People don't joke like that unless there's truth behind it. He didn't respond. An hour later, I went downstairs. Mom sat at the kitchen table staring at cold coffee. Sit down, she said. I sat across from her. Ethan, is there anything else, anything he said or did that I don't know about? I shook my head. No, that was enough. She nodded and pulled out a small notebook. I found this in your old room, your journal. My stomach tightened. You read it? Only 1 page, the one you marked. She slid it across the table. I recognized my 14-year-old handwriting. Today, I heard Dad say he wishes he could trade me for another son. He said I'm useless and forgettable. He laughed. So since that day, I'll give him what he wants. I'll be invisible. Mom's tears fell onto the page. You were just a child, she whispered. 14. I didn't look at her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what you'd say, that he didn't mean it, that he was joking, that I should forgive him. She lowered her head. I probably would have said that, and I would have been wrong. She stood slowly. He called this morning. He wants to talk. I don't want to see him. You leave in 4 days. Then he can wait 4 days. You can't avoid this forever. Watch me. I went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard the front door open. Laura, please, Dad said, voice tired. I need to talk to him. He doesn't want to see you. Just 5 minutes. David, I can't even process what you said. How could you speak like that about your own son? It was a stupid joke. I was trying to fit in. I didn't think. That's the problem. You never think when it comes to him. I need to apologize. An apology won't fix 4 years. I know, but I have to try. Footsteps came up the stairs. 3 knocks on my door. Ethan, Dad said softly, please open the door. I know you can hear me, and I know you probably hate me. You have every right to. Silence. What I said that day was unforgivable.
There's no excuse, he continued through the door. No explanation that makes it better. I was a coward. I was a terrible father. But I need you to understand something. I didn't mean it. I truly didn't. It was a thoughtless comment to get a laugh from another dad. I wasn't thinking." I stayed silent. "Please," he said, "just let me talk to you." After 5 minutes, his footsteps faded down the hall, and for the first time in 4 years, I felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. 2 days later, Dad returned home. He didn't go back to their bedroom. Mom told him to sleep in the guest room. They barely spoke. Noah tried to act normal, but the house felt tense, like everyone was waiting for something. I spent those days packing, keeping my door locked most of the time. On Tuesday night, there was another knock. "Your father wants to talk to you," Mom said. "He says he won't leave until you listen. He can wait." "Ethan, you leave in 2 days," she said gently. "If you don't talk now, when will you? Do you really want to carry this forever?" "Maybe that's better." She walked in and sat on my bed. "No, it's not. You don't have to forgive him. Just listen. Sometimes forgiveness begins with understanding." I looked at her. "Why are you pushing this?" "Because I'm your mother, and I don't want you carrying this anger for the rest of your life. Forgiveness isn't for him, it's for you." I sat quietly for a long moment, then sighed. 5 minutes. She nodded and left. 2 minutes later, Dad stepped into my room. He looked thinner, worn down. His eyes were dark, his face tired. He sat in the chair by my desk. "Thank you for giving me this chance." I didn't respond. He clasped his hands. "I don't know where to begin. I've been thinking for days, and nothing feels enough." "Then don't say anything," I said. "I have to, even if it's not enough." He took a breath. "What I said that day was the worst thing I've ever said. There's no excuse. I was trying to impress another dad, trying to be funny, and I used you as the joke. It was cruel. I'll regret it for the rest of my life." "Why?" I asked. "Why say it? Why me? Why not Noah?" He looked at his hands. "Because everyone already knew Noah. He was the star, easy to brag about. You were quieter, harder for me to understand. Instead of trying to connect with you, I took the easy way out. I mocked you to feel accepted." "So you embarrassed your own son to fit in?" He nodded slowly. "I was insecure, weak, stupid. I didn't think about how it would sound or how it would feel if you ever heard it. I thought it was just words." "It wasn't just words," I said. "It was everything." "I know, and I can't undo it." "You didn't even remember," I said. "Mom had to force it out of you." "That's not true," he said quickly. "I remembered the moment Noah mentioned the tournament. I was just afraid to admit it. I knew that was when you stopped being my son." "So you lied." "I panicked," he said. "I couldn't face what I'd done. I thought if I denied it, it would disappear." I shook my head. Unbelievable. He leaned forward. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but please believe me when I say I never truly thought those things about you. It came from my own insecurity, not from who you are." "Then what's the truth?" I asked. "That I didn't mean it." "Then why did you laugh?" He froze. "You laughed," my voice breaking, "like it was nothing, like I was nothing. That laugh stayed with me." He wiped his eyes. "You're right, I laughed, and that's what makes it worse. I can't change that moment. I can only admit it and promise I'll never do anything like that again." I walked to the window. "You think a promise fixes this?" "No, but maybe time can, if you allow it." I turned back. "Why should I? You had time, 4 years." He nodded. "I know, and every day I hoped you'd give me another chance. But it wasn't your job to fix this. It was mine. I failed you." He stood carefully. "I won't ask you to forgive me, but I'll ask for one thing." "What?" "A chance to prove I can be better. Not today, not tomorrow, just someday. Let me show you I can be the father I should have been." I didn't answer. "Do you understand what you did to me?" "Yes," he said quietly. "You stopped being my son the moment I made you feel unwanted. I'll carry that forever." "Then why are you here?" "Because I don't want that to be how our story ends." We stood in silence. "Can I hug you?" he asked. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. He stepped forward carefully. When he put his arms around me, I went rigid at first. Then something inside me gave way. For the first time in 4 years, I let my father hold me, and I cried. I cried for the 14-year-old who heard those words in a parking lot. I cried for the years I forced myself not to feel. I cried because forgiveness wasn't guaranteed, but at least now he understood the damage. When we stepped apart, the room was quiet. "This doesn't mean everything is fixed," I said. "I know, it may never be perfect. I'll try not to hate you." He nodded. "That's more than I deserve." He left without another word. That night we ate dinner together for the first time in days. No shouting, no forced smiles, just quiet. The tension was still there, but it wasn't unbearable. Noah looked between us. "So are you two okay now?" "Not okay, but better." Dad gave a small nod. "It's a start." After dinner, Noah came to my room. "What happened?" "We talked. There's no instant fix, just two people trying to move forward." "Are you going to forgive him?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. Not today." He sat beside me. "You know what hurts me? While Dad was focused on being proud of me, you were hurting, and I didn't see it. That wasn't your responsibility. You were a kid. Still, I wish I'd been a better brother. You were the best I could have had. That's enough." He smiled faintly. "I'm going to miss you. I'll miss you too." The next morning, I heard Mom and Dad talking downstairs. Their voices were low and tired. When I went down, Noah was already waiting. "They've been talking for hours," he whispered. Soon, Mom came out. Her eyes were red but steady. Dad followed, looking exhausted. "We're going to counseling, together, and your father is starting individual therapy." "That's it?" Noah asked. "For now, it's a start." Dad turned to me. "When you're ready, Ethan, I'd like to go to therapy with you too." "I don't know when that will be." "There's no rush. I'll be here." 2 days later, I left for college. My bag sat by the door. Noah's car waited outside. Mom hugged me first. "Call when you land, every week." "I will." "I love you more than anything." "I love you too." Dad stepped forward. "Can I?" I nodded. He hugged me, not too tight, not too long, just enough. "I'm going to do better," he said quietly. "You don't have to believe me. Just watch. Don't promise, just do it." "I will." "Goodbye, Dad," I said. It was the first time I'd called him that in 4 years. He froze briefly, then smiled. "Goodbye, son." 5 years later, I stood in front of a mirror adjusting my tie for my master's graduation. My phone buzzed. A text from Noah. "We're on our way. Mom's already crying. Dad had to pull over twice." I smiled. During my first year away, Dad called every Sunday. It was awkward at first, but he never missed one call. By the second year, we talked about real things: therapy, his insecurities, how he hid behind work and Noah's achievements because they made him feel valuable. My therapist says I used Noah's success to cover my own failures, he admitted once, and I pushed you away because you reminded me of myself. That conversation changed something, not forgiveness yet, but understanding. By the third year, he visited me. We watched a soccer game, ate at a diner, talked late into the night. I told him it wasn't too late, you were just late. There's a difference. At Christmas during my 4th year, he gave me his father's old watch. I was going to give it to Noah, but he already has memories with me. You don't. That's my fault. This